From Columbia, in high definition, this is WIS News 10 Awareness.
Thank you for joining us for Awareness. I'm your host, Megan Norman. When you've suffered a loss or a traumatic experience, it's often difficult to find the strength to face it, let alone move to a new place of normalcy. That grief can be particularly tough around the holidays. To help us cope and get through the grief is Linda Gill, a licensed professional counselor who works with all kinds of life losses. Linda Gill, you are the founder of Joy in the Morning Center for Life Losses. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk a little bit about Joy in the Morning Center and its mission.
Okay. Joy in the Morning Center is specifically for people who are grieving losses. Primarily, we work with losses related to death, but we have support groups and we have grief recovery programs, and on our website we even have a listing of all of the area support groups around us that I'm aware of.
Right. And Joy in the Morning, I think it's such a fitting title, even though joy doesn't really come as often and as quickly as some people may like, and you work with people for a period of time to help get them through their losses. Let's talk about some of the types of losses people experience.
Okay, it could be the death of a person, it could be the death of a pet, it could be the loss of a relationship that's really important to you. Any kind of loss that you grieve, the loss of a baby, any of these types of things. But our mission is to return people to joy through through a method of support and helping them return to joy through their mourning. We want to help people learn to mourn in healthy ways.
Right. Now, is there ever a timeline when it comes to how long grief should last?
There are no shoulds when it comes to grief and loss. People struggle, usually the first year after a major loss is a year of survival. We call it the year of first things because you're going through the first holidays, the first birthdays, the first anniversaries. And some people think that at the end of a year everybody should be over it, but you don't get over grief, you work through it. I tell people you grieve because you've loved, and grief is the price we pay for loving somebody. But we love them and we don't stop loving them because they've died. And so people struggle because they still love the person, but the person's not there.
Right. So explain to me exactly how you help people work through that grief.
Okay, there is a process to grief. Many people have heard of the stages of grief. I don't even think of it in terms of stages, because if you think of stages, you think of moving from like denial through anger, through the different phases that people go through. I don't see it that way. It's more of a process that you live through and you learn to work through. I talk about working through grief rather than getting over it. And I think of it more like a huge labyrinth, a maze that you have to feel your way through in the dark. There's a tool that I use when I do grief counseling that is called the grief map, and it helps people understand what they're doing as they're going through the process, where they are actually in the process. But there's a process of initially avoiding the grief because it hurts. Then there's the process of confronting the grief, which is actually starting to move through the map, through the labyrinth. And then finally there's a place where you discover a different normal. A lot of people call it the new normal. A lot of people hate that term because they say life will never be normal again.
Normal,
and it will be different. We call it the different normal where I work.
And so there, like you said, there really aren't stages because it's not like one ends and another begins, but it's more of a fluid motion, this process that you're constantly working through.
And it's a convoluted process, and the kicker is that everybody's maze is differently configured because you knew the person in a different way. So everybody in the same family, though they're grieving, will grieve in a different way and will work through their maze in a different way, and it's hard for them to help each other get through it.
Well, let's talk about the holidays and how that can sometimes compound the loss.
Okay.
How do you help people work through the holidays in particular?
Mostly by assuring them they don't have to do things the way they've always done them. I believe that people, when they're going through the holidays, especially the first or the second year, they may need to do things very differently. I've told some people, they say, I just want to run away. And I say, well, it's okay. If you guys want to go to the beach and cook a pot of chili at the beach, you can do that if it would help you to get through that time. So some people don't want to deal with the holidays at all. Other people when we're talking about family traditions, one of the things that we talk about in classes that I've done on holiday grief and coping with it is to figure out which traditions would hurt too much to do them, which ones would be really helpful if we did them, which ones would be meaningful even if they hurt. And I tell people just to do the things that would be the most meaningful to them. As an example, there's a family that I remember that I worked with a number of years ago, and their son had died quite suddenly. And at Christmas, his dad and his brother wanted to put up the Christmas tree, but Mom didn't feel like she could do the Christmas tree. And so she did a memory tree where she used little butterfly ornaments in memory of him, because they were Lutheran and the butterfly is the symbol of new life and eternal life. And so she had butterfly ornaments and did a little tiny tree. Yeah.
Well, I suppose one of the biggest pieces of advice is everyone works through things differently, but you need to address it, and there are plenty of resources out there. So could you share just a couple of numbers for people if they want to get in touch with you?
If people need to get in touch with us, 803-716-4600 is the number for Joy in the Morning Center. And then we have a website, www.joyinthemorningcenter.org, and morning is spelled M-O-U-R-N-I-N-G.
Great. Linda Gill, thank you so much for being with us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Still to come on Awareness. The holidays can also be a troubling time for those dealing with mental illness. After the break, local resources to help in your time of need. Welcome back to Awareness. Mental illness is a very real reality and daily battle for many people, and it often comes with a label so stigmatizing many people do not seek the help. And that's why I'm joined this morning by two women who are working hard to change public perception and give you the help you need. Lydia Bailey Paget is the Community Outreach Coordinator with the Lee Thompson Young Foundation, and Mandy Medlock is Director of Operations for the National Alliance on Mental Health here in the Midlands. Thank you for joining me this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Two really great organizations. And Lydia, I want to start with you. What is your role now with the Lee Thompson Young Foundation?
As the Community Outreach Coordinator, it is my role to connect with the community and provide resources that can help individuals and families with their mental health needs or questions, provide education, groups, facilitate discussions about treatment, particular strategies and skills that you would need to deal effectively with mental health and mental health needs.
And we know that Lee Thompson Young committed suicide last year. It came about that he was suffering from mental illness. Is this really a passion for you to bring awareness to this issue?
It is. I've been in the mental health arena over 20 years. I started out in the school system, moved over with mental health in the community, and also doing private practice, and also currently I'm in the education field. I'm very committed as well with the Lee Thompson Young Foundation in regards to providing awareness and education and destigmatizing mental health and mental illness. And I think if we focus on that, I think we can really help turn around in dealing with it more effectively.
And we'll get back to the education part in just a minute. Mandy, I want to bring you into the conversation. We know NAMI's been around for a little while now, and let's talk a little bit more about how the organization is really trying to destigmatize mental illness.
Well, NAMI wants the community to know, and really everybody to know, that the brain is a body part just like our entire body, and there are treatment options available. When we have a heart disease, we get treatment for our heart, and we treat the brain in the same way. When our brain is disordered, we get treatment. And so we want to encourage everybody to think of the brain the same way that we think of any other body part. There's nothing to be ashamed of. There's nothing wrong about it. It's just about seeking treatment and getting the help that you need.
And going back to education, you have this, Lee Thompson Young Foundation has this new program in the school system, and it's called COPE, is that correct?
Yes, COPE stands for Comprehensive Ongoing Proactive Education. We started a pilot program in Atlanta, and this program is connecting the educators and the parents, and increasing the awareness about warning signs, symptoms, educating them about particular mental illnesses, and also providing them an environment where they can learn how to access resources in the community, because mental health, mental illness is on the rise in our educational environment, and we want to provide them with skills to combat that.
And why start in the classroom?
Well, we feel that children and parents and the community connection, where you spent most of the time as a child, and kindergarten through 8th is where we're starting at. And we feel that if we focus on that and address these mental health issues at an earlier age, that we can be more effective in dealing with them as they become young adults.
Right. And does the program branch out to address other community leaders?
Yes, we're focusing on the clergy, first responders, family members in the community organizations, other nonprofits. We want to make sure that it is full, comprehensive, and including everyone in the community, because mental illness affects everyone.
It does. And it happens all year round, right, Mandy? Not just the holidays can sometimes bring it out, maybe more so, or can be a harder time for those who are suffering with mental illness. But what are some of the resources out there all year round that can help people?
Oh, absolutely. We have support groups and educational opportunities for individuals with a mental illness and their family members year round. But we want to stress during this time that these resources are available through our organization and through other nonprofits in town for free. Year round, especially this time of year when people feel lonely and they feel isolated. Our meetings are not canceled. Our meetings keep going, as do other 12-step programs, Alcoholics Anonymous, things like that. These meetings meet all year round, all the time, and there's no reason anybody should feel isolated or alone during this time of year. We're still here, we're still meeting. We're at NAMIMidCarolina.org. Our schedule stays current, and they can go to that website to find out what meetings are available.
Right. And I think it's particularly great to hear from you because you have a personal connection to mental illness. And is that the reason why you really got involved with this?
Oh, that's correct. I'm a family member, and so this is definitely my passion. I lost a family member to mental illness over a decade ago, and I was so isolated and really felt desperate, a desperate amount of grief. I mean, you opened the show with that feeling of grief, and I don't want anybody else to feel that way. And so that's why I carry this message on a daily basis, to try to really avoid other people feeling that sense of isolation, that sense of shame associated with mental illness. There's no reason to be ashamed.
And Lydia, how does someone work past that shame?
I think it's education. 1 in 5 individuals will deal with mental illness in their lifetime. And like Mandy said earlier, there is no differentiation between the physical health and the mental. It works together. If you're not feeling well physically, it's going to have some effect on you mentally. Mentally, it's vice versa. So we're looking at a holistic approach and a balance to both, and making sure that there's no line of delineation, that we address them effectively. And there should be no shame, I agree, no shame.
And so moving forward, what would you say is the biggest piece of advice to family members or those who are in the support network of individuals who are suffering with mental illness?
Talk, communicate. Because some individuals feel shame, we feel that we shouldn't share what we are experiencing or reach out to others, and that brings about isolation. Open your mouth and share your story, and you will find that you're not the only one. And we're out there to provide resources for you. And you can access information on our website as well, www.leethompsonyoungfoundation.org.
Well, thank you both so much for being with us this morning. Great advice, great resources, and we will, of course, have all these resources posted on our website.
Thank you.
When awareness returns, the talents of an Orangeburg native hidden for decades will soon be on display. How his works are helping those with mental illness. Welcome back to Awareness. James Green Jr. has dedicated his life to the arts. With a true gift of expression, Green has created hundreds of paintings and sketches and sculptures spanning more than 4 decades. but his artwork has largely gone unnoticed and unappreciated until now. My next two guests are changing all of that. Annie Green Purvis, James's sister, and Cecil Williams, the nationally recognized photographer and Orangeburg native. Thank you both for being with us this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Now, how did you discover all of this artwork? More than 400 pieces, correct?
Correct. Well, it was in the attic of our homestead, and I knew he was an artist, and I knew he had some work, but I didn't know the extent of the work.
Right.
And we decided to clear the house out because no one was living there any longer. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, you know, when we opened, had it in a big box, wooden crate kind of box. Mm-hmm. And when we opened it, we could hardly believe, all the works that we found.
Right. And Mr. Williams, you are a childhood friend of Mr. Green, correct?
Yes, all through high school, James and I were the very best of friends. We were also partners in playing tennis. At that time, the American Tennis Association was the organization that African Americans could play in. And Jimmy went on, besides art, in becoming one of the national junior champions during our days. So we went to the tennis courts in Orangeburg on a daily basis, but I was not, we were both in art.
Athletic and artistic.
Yes, but I was not aware of his rich treasure of art until his sister really brought me into the picture.
Well, both of you very accomplished artists, as we can see from his artwork, and a lot of yours, especially from the civil rights era. Now, both of you got together and decided to put his works into a collection, and there's now going to be a book unveiling dedicated to this work, correct?
Correct. There will be a book unveiling on the 16th of December at the Carolina Room at the cinema in Orangeburg.
Okay.
At 7 o'clock. Mm-hmm.
And it's free to the public to come out?
It's free to the public to come out. And the books will be unveiled, and there will also be art display, and they will be on sale.
Okay. And Mr. Williams, with your creative eye, what did you think when you first saw all of these pieces?
It was amazing because, again, I'm really a lover of a particular type of art myself, and abstract being one of them, and minimalism. So when I discovered what my friend, longtime friend, had painted, it was really very enlightening that it was just no way that we could just leave this undiscovered.
Right.
So when we were developing the book, we decided to, in fact, call it James Green Jr., the rediscovered art of James Green Jr. Right. I thought that was very appropriate. And
there'll be about 200 abstract paintings in the book?
Yes, 200 out of the 400 paintings are in the book. And again, the book is available now, but we're really having a grand unveiling. Not only will there be book signings, but we will also have, the art will also be available for sale.
Right. And let's talk about the sale, because some of the proceeds are going to be given to a very special place. Would you like to talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. Mr. Williams had the very brilliant idea of partnering with the Orangeburg area mental health. And some of the proceeds will be going to that department.
Right. And Mr. Green is, the reason he's not with us is because he's in a convalescent home now.
He is.
And he's been suffering for a period of time, as you said, with depression and other various conditions.
Right.
Right. And how has that been for your family? And what impact do you think that had on his artwork?
On his artwork? Well, there are only two of us now. My brother and I. The other members of our family, our immediate family, have deceased.
And I know in his earlier days you were saying he was somewhat secluded, and you believe depression may have played a role in the seclusion.
Yes. is that he wasn't a very vocal person.
Okay.
See, and he was kind of quiet. Kept most of his thoughts to himself.
And all of his artwork to himself too, apparently.
Yes.
But now we have it on display, and the book unveiling will release it publicly now, and the public really will have a chance to appreciate and acknowledge his great talents. So we thank you for doing that, and we look forward to the book unveiling. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
We'll be right back with a final thought. If grief, loss, or mental illness is holding you hostage or keeping you from living life, there is help available. The first step is addressing it, and we have resources posted on WISTV.com and on our Awareness Facebook page. The holidays can be a challenging time for everyone, but it can also be filled with joy and love. Reach out if you are in need. We'd like to thank all of our guests this morning. Until next time, I'm Megan Norman. This is Awareness.